Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Oh, welcome to my channel. Today we are gonna take some scrap fabrics and some ribbon and some leftover pieces of packaging and make some journaling cards, tags, pockets, things that can go in our journal using fabric and ribbon. So let's start with the ribbon ones. And these are thicker wired ribbons that I picked up either for wreath making or just because I really liked these ribbons. And what I'm gonna do is, how tall is this? I may trim this down. Yeah, that's gonna be too big for pretty much anything I'm gonna do in my journal. So let's take this piece and trim it to a more reasonable size. Let's do it this way because it's 9 inches. Let's cut it down to 6. This one I'm going to cut down this way to 8. All right. So what I'm going to do, so we've got a nice coffee dyed back for this. And honestly, these ends have gotten kind of janky. Let's trim those off too. All right, now we can proceed. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my ribbon and cut a piece to approximately the right size. Now this is a wired ribbon, so in the sides there are pieces of ribbon. Can you see that? Or pieces of wire. Let's show you. So there's the wire, and if you just grab a hold and pull, you can pull the wire out. So basically what I do is I hold here and grab the wire area a little lower and press up and then pinch so I can grab a hold of that and then let go and just drag the ribbon out, the wire out. And now I have just a piece of fabric because it doesn't have the wire in it anymore. And I'm gonna glue it on to my piece of cardstock. And I'm gonna use fabric tack. You can use whatever glue you like using it for gluing fabric. And so I'm gonna just do basically the same thing all the way across this piece of paper. I'm gonna leave a little gap between them just to make it easier to cut these apart. Now, I'm not worrying too much about how good of a coating of glue I'm getting because I am gonna take these to my sewing machine once we're done gluing and the glue has dried completely and stitch around the edges just to make sure everything stays on good. All right, I'm gonna finish covering this and then cover these 2 pieces and I'll be back. Now, I decided as I was doing this one that what I want to do is put the lighter gray down on the bottom as a pocket. So we're just gonna put I don't want to shrink the size of the pocket. I'm pulling the glue away from the middle of where the pocket's gonna be. that would be kind of a cool idea, is to have a ribbon pocket. So this can be a journaling card that we can tuck some stuff into. All right, these guys need to all sit and dry before I take them to my sewing machine. And another thing is, if you're using Fabri-Tac, make sure you spread it out. I didn't have enough glue on this one, so I stuck some underneath and then realized I forgot to smooth it out, and I've got a little glue lumpiness, but it should be fine once I stitch and cut everything out. So those are done for now until I go to my sewing machine. Now I'm pulling over my fabric and my leftover bits of packaging. So these are the pieces left over when I cut down some packaging to make journal covers. And so we're going to grab a few of these and make some tags and journaling cards and stuff. Now let's see, what size are you? You are 7.5 by a very not straight, not quite 4. All right, we are going to trim this and make it a little straighter. And I think we're going to trim it down to 3. A little straighter. Then let's make it 6. And I am going to pre-cut this into a tag shape before we cover it. And this is just an old gift card that I cut the corners off of to create a template for doing tags. And what I'm going to do is take a piece of fabric. Is this big enough? Yes, it is. Excellent. I am going to, wrong scissors. Why not? Ruh-roh. Now I am going to glue it, and I'm not too worried about what it looks like on this side because we're going to back it with coffee dyed paper. We go, we've got a tag shape, and I need to grab another sheet of coffee dyed paper that we can glue this on to and then trim around, and I will stitch the edges once this is dry. So we'll set that one aside. This one is already 6 by a little wide. Let's trim a little off the edge. All right, so we'll do one more tag and then let's figure out what we got with the rest of the stuff. And I'm basically gonna just do the same process over again. So. I'm going to set that one aside, let it dry. Now this is some of the paper packaging. I think what I want to do is cut this to make a belly band. So I'm going to go slightly over 8. And I want to go a little grungier for this one. So I've got this piece of Tim Holtz fabric that frays so very nicely. So what we are going to do is put a very small amount of glue along the edges. And I'm going to sew around the very edge and then fray the rest of the fabric around it so that we have like a frilly edged belly band, because I think that'd look cool. So let's do that. I may need to let this dry before I trim it since I didn't trim beforehand. All right. I think we're gonna do a pocket for this one. My pages are 5.5 wide. So let's cut this at 5. I'm gonna use my paper trimmer for it so that I can maybe get a straight edge and like this one I'm gonna adjust it so that I like what's on. Yeah, that is good. And once it's dry, I'll trim off any excess on the corners. And I am going to back this too, so I don't have to worry about anything that's going in and out of the pocket catching on the fabric. All right, so I want to do one more. And this one we're going to do as like a journaling card. Okay, so once this is dry, I'll clean up the corners and I'm going to back everything. There's one other thing I did want to do. Okay, so I covered a piece with some other fabric I had in my stash. Let's trim the little excess on the corners off. Now I'm gonna cut a piece of cardstock to back it with. Slip more off. And then what I want to do is on this side, add a little bit of lace. add a piece. Oh man, did I cut that too short? No, I think I can stretch it. Okay. Add some glue along here. Add this on just to give it some stability, firmness, and so things won't catch on it. That can be a lovely little belly band on a page. I am gonna let this dry. I'm gonna glue cardstock on the back of all the other pieces, and then I'm gonna go to my sewing machine and stitch everything, and then I'll be back. All right, so I've done all the sewing and I've pulled out some things for some decorating. So we're gonna do a little bit of decorating of our pieces. So let's start with this tag, and we've got this little cutie. She is a digital by SmallArtScrapbook, and we definitely need a label for her to stand on. And actually, I think I'm gonna do a little editing. I'm gonna trim that curl off so that she's not sticking off the edges. I feel like this needs, it's a Crafty by Toni stamp, and I am just gonna grab a little, I think old paint. Let's test it out and see. If you like old paint. Yeah, I think that'll work. So we're gonna just do a little. Just to add a little interest to that. And then I think I'm gonna ink it. Actually, no, I think it's good like that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and glue these guys down. I am gonna grab, all right, normally I will ink using antique linen to kind of tone down the white around the edges of something I've fussy cut out, but since this one's background is gray, I figured let's give Lost Shadow a try and see how that works. I am going to use some Fabri-Tac because that just works a little bit better when you're gluing stuff onto fabric. And these labels were created using the Tim Holtz Sizzix die. I think it's vintage labels, and it's the ones where you ink the die, and then what you end up getting is the inked impression on the piece that you die cut out. My finger to smooth it out to the more delicate spots. And we definitely need a topper. Let me see what I have. I've got a little bit of sari silk, so I think I'm just gonna go like that and then staple it on using my Tim Holtz tiny attacher. In here. Just gonna staple like that, and we've got one fabric tag all decorated. Next up is this cutie, and yeah, I'm a little obsessed with the little fairy girl digitals. This one's a Paper Snippet company, and I think again I want to do some kind of label for her to stand on. Right, so this is a label by the Junk Journal Studio, and I think it fits perfectly right across here for her to stand on. Oh, I do want to cut out between her feet so we don't have that white there. And I'm grabbing some Kitsch Flamingo to ink the edges. And I think that's all I'm going to do on this little belly band because I really like the fabric, so I want it to show. And I mean, she's just so stinking cute. Does she really need anything else? I mean, so cute. So cute. All right. Except I got this one. And it's another paper snippet company. And definitely going to do like a label across there. All right, so I pulled out a stamped bit from my collection of stamped bits. And I think I may grab the Lost Shadow and ink that. Then I'm gonna grab peacock feathers and ink the edges. And this is a $49 in Market ticket. I think I'm gonna go crazy and try and cut out inside the loops. Too bad. I am gonna do some antique linen on her. Now I'm gonna use my Fabri-Tac to glue her in place. Now you can use art glitter glue to glue stuff to fabric. It takes a little longer to grab, but it should hold just fine. All right, I need to go check and see what my dogs are up to. So I'll do that and then I'll be back and we'll do a few more. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch more of the pockets and tags and journaling cards we made, and I pulled out stuff to go on them to hopefully get this video done in a reasonable amount of time. Okay, that's a little extra, a little more excess thread than I want. So let's trim that off. And so this is, oh, that's got too much too. Let's trim that. The pocket we made using two different ribbons that I put the one ribbon on top to create it into a little pocket, and then I thought the two little tags that match the pocket material look kind of cute in there, so why not do that? So I've got these little cuties from SmallArtScrapbooks. I will leave a link down below, and I'm just trying to decide. I think I maybe want, at least for her, a little label to stand on, and I may pull one out for her as well. These are by the Junk Journal Studio. And then I definitely think I want something to go on the top, but I think I like that. Got a dauber that's got, I think, salvage patina on it. Now that's kind of one of those things I tend to wait until the last minute to do, because that's likely to get damaged, so I will wait until I'm ready to use it to cut things like that off. Let's see, glue. I think I'm gonna just go with art glitter glue, which works on fabric. It just doesn't usually grab as quickly as my Fabri-Tac does, so you can use art glitter glue. I wouldn't try glue stick. I don't think glue stick has got enough hold to hold on top of the fabric. And I'm okay that her wing's sticking off a little bit. Oh, I think that'll work nicely. And I'm just gonna trim a little off and use my tiny attacher to attach it as the topper on there. That needs something on it, and I think let's grab another label. Okay, I wanted to find a butterfly to go on our label, so I had to go hunt for that, and I grabbed that. I also grabbed, this is a 49 and market ticket, so I think what we're gonna do is something like that, and it does help our little butterfly stand out a little bit more. And then I pulled out a Crafty by Toni stamp, and it's from her, I think, entomology set, and it says collected, and we're just going to stamp that on our little label and then glue everything on. Just grabbing out a mouse pad, because stamping on a mouse pad gets you better results when you're stamping because it's squishy. So that one's done. Now these are both digitals by PaperSnippet Company, and they're from different sets, but I kind of wanted something like hanging out above the mushroom. And this has got more brown tones, and this is a little bit brighter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my tea dye and a brush and a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to go over this whole thing with tea dye to kind of bring in the brown tones, hopefully. So now they work a little bit better together, and I am kind of just keeping this one simple because I don't want to cover up all of the ribbon. All right, I am gonna call that one done. Now this is a digital by ChezSimoneTresors. I will leave a link to her digital down below. Now, I wanted this to stand out a little bit more against our background, and I've got these pieces of fabric that I've kind of pieced together because I didn't have a piece in the scrap bin big enough, and these are leftover bits of fabric from when I recovered the chairs in my dining room years ago. And I'm gonna use Fabri-Tac to glue the fabric down. And I think I may go grab another one of these scraps to use as a topper on this guy. I cut these pieces up for making fabric clusters. So I have them all in a bin together as my fabric cluster snippets. All right, let's put her on, and I'm gonna ink the edges with the salvage patina. I think I'm going to ink this with the tea dye. And then ink the edges with the salvage patina. Okay, I think I like it thinner. So let's grab, found them. I'll just trim that bit off. Gonna put a clamp on that just to hold it on while it dries, and set that to the side for a minute, because I also want to put a staple with my tiny detacher in it. All right, let's pull this one over. He's from that same kit, and I am just gonna do the blue on the edges again. This is, I think, on my Porch Prints. This is Rach and Bella, and what I want to do is tear a little bit off to make this a little narrower. I just want enough peeking out to like give him a background so he stands out, because otherwise he completely blends in with the background. And you know, I went a little grungy on this, and I've got tufts of stray thread underneath my sewing. So what I did was I clumped up some random bits of thread and sewed over it with my sewing machine. So that's how I did that. And I had originally tried to do this as a nice neat straight stitch around, and I went a little wonky, so I then just went around a second time and made it even wonkier so that it looks intentional. What am I doing? Tearing ruler. Now, when you're tearing, it's easier if you're grabbing the big piece and using that to pull than if you try pulling, like, because I'm just taking a little off the edge, the small piece. Like that. I'm going to ink the edges of this piece and that piece in hickory smoke. And I grabbed my dauber that has black on it, so it may end up being a little darker than that, but that's fine. I feel like I want more of the salvage patina. And then just the edge with the darker color. I like that. Oh, you know what? This guy was supposed to have several mushrooms. Oh man. These two were supposed to be in the back, but that one kind of popped up in the front. I think maybe what we'll do is pop up these two then. All right, so let me bring back my piece of paper, my tea dye. I'm definitely going to use glue, since we're gluing onto fabric, for my foam squares. Let's this guy with these foam squares. And yes, I tend to use a ton of foam squares because I don't like having it like be wobbly. I'll let that dry for a sec. And I'm gonna grab out, I think I have thicker ones. Right, these are Simon Says stamp ones. And we're gonna put the thicker ones on this guy so he pops up a little bit more. All right, so this one should be dry enough to take these off. There we go. Now that one is done. Let's pull this one back over and put our staple in. There we go. That one's done. All right, so we got that one, and this is another one from PaperSnippet Company. And I'm going back and forth on whether I want to do anything else or just want to stick him on there because he's so cute and it just makes me kind of giggle. Okay, so I did some scrounging around and found some stuff that I kind of like to go on here. So this is what we're going to do. Junk Journal Studio, 49 in Market, and that's a stamped bit that I used Crafty by Toni stamps for. So let's see, I'm going to ink the edges on a couple pieces. Go, that one's all decorated. All right, so this one is, I think that's Ration Velocrass. I think that's my Porch Prints, 49 in Market, and this is a digital book by SmallArtScrapbook, and I want to crumple this up a little bit, but be strategic. So like, let's do that, and then ink it with Scorched Timber. And I want to grab my distresser. I'm just going to ink the edges because I don't like how white it is where it got torn off the roll. Because if you're not familiar with the 49 and Market tickets, it's tickets and stamps, and they come in these huge rolls for ridiculously good price, but you actually tear the tickets and the stamps off the rolls. So that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. This is gonna go there. And I've got faux antique tape, so I'm gonna use some faux antique tape on this. Let's use this. It is my Porch Prints. I wrote it on the back. All right, let me grab my tape. And I've got a video on my channel showing how I made my faux antique tape. Basically, it's just alcohol ink on clear Scotch tape. Let's pull off a few pieces. Do one doing that. there, fixing that rip. We're going to glue this on and then tape that on there like that. And that will be a belly band on a page with the little fluffies. Yeah, so I frayed the rest of the edges, and basically to do that, you can take a pokey tool, get up close and show you, just in case you don't know how to do this. What you do is you go in and you pull up the thread that goes across, and then just pull that all the way out. I think the rest of that's under the stitching, so we're going to need to trim that one off, but that's how you get it to fray the rest of the way. All right, so he's done. Okay, we got two more. And this is another of the Paper Snippet Company. We're gonna glue him on. And this is Shabbydabbydoodah. And then this is another stamp bit using, I think, a Crafty by Toni stamp. Alright, he's done. And one last one. We've got this one. And I think she's too stinking cute. And I started doing some of the flowers mostly because it was going to take too long to do it all on camera and to test out the colors. So these are dies by Impression Obsession, who they are no longer around. I don't know if their stuff's available anywhere. And then the leaves are by, oh, also Impression Obsession. So I don't know if they're available out there. Just use what you have. But I figured I kind of wanted to play off the peachy colors in her, the flowers in her hair and on her wings. So that's why I went with kind of a peachy color on the flowers. I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down so I can put like a block on it, because we're definitely going to use art glitter glue, because trying to glue this on with Fabri-Tac just going to make a mess. While we, and so that this can dry while we're working on coloring the other stalk. Now, I did do a bit of an edit to this stalk. There was at least one more flower here and then below, and so I just kind of trimmed around the flower so that I could keep the stem, but get rid of the actual flower. Do that and scoot that over, and then I'll show you how I did the flowers. Now I've got the distressed watercolor pencils, so I started by adding dried marigold to my flowers. Grabbed some water and a paintbrush. Where did my paintbrush go? Oh, there it is. My desk is currently a complete and utter disaster area. After I'm finished doing this, I am going to have a bit of a cleanup. Now I'm going to use water to blend it. After doing that, I decided way too light, hardly showing up, so I grabbed ripe persimmon, and I'm grabbing a little ripe persimmon and putting it on the flowers. And then coming back in with the dried marigold and blending it out so that we get the lovely peachy color. now we're gonna let that dry and work on these leaves while that's drying. And I've got shabby shutters. And then I went in with a little mowed lawn on the leaves just to add a little extra brightness to the leaves. And I'll come in and I'll take some more pigment off the back of the pencil from the shabby shutters. Now that that's dry, I'm going to come in with the shabby shutters and do the stem. That spot's maybe still a little damp. All right, I'm going to hit these with my heat tool just to get them dry so we can get them glued on. All right, let's grab our tweezers and glue the flower on first. All right, let's trim that excess bit off. And this is another one where it didn't go as smoothly stitching wise. So let me show you close up. What I end up doing is just purposefully going all kinds of wonky so that it looks like the original slightly wonkiness was intentional and not a complete and utter accident, because I'm not very good with my sewing machine. All right, so let's take a look at all we did. And I know there was a mushroom pocket that I did in the first part of this video. I have no idea where it is currently. So we did this one and this little guy and our big steampunky grungy belly band and our cute little rabbit and this cute little boy and our cute little girl. And wow, I did a whole heck of a lot. And this one and our little pocket with our fairies and this journaling card with our little girl with her tongue sticking out. I just think she's too stinking cute. And this one, and then our pink belly band. Yeah, we did a whole heck of a lot. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.